Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Fans of the DC Universe podcast, the only DCU podcast for the fans, by the fans, and the best source for all DC Universe news and discussion on everything DCU. Joining us today are Donnell, Aquaman, New 52. Oh, there you guys are. And Donnell.
Me too.
And so Aquaman, Donnell, New 52. Okay, and today we have all seen the Titan Season 2 premiere and are so excited to talk about it. But first, we have some new comics coming to DC Universe this week, including Batgirl Annual number 2, Batgirl number 26, Nightwing Annual number 1, The Silencer Annual number 1, Red Hood and the Outlaws Annual number 2, Catwoman / Tweety Bird and Sylvester Special number 1, Harley Quinn and Gossamer Special number 1, Joker at Daffy Duck Special number 1, Lex Luthor Porky Pig Special number 1. Oh my god, there's so many specials, you guys. And then newly digitized, Batman Family number 18, Bruce Wayne The Road Home Commissioner Gordon number 1, Deadman number 4, Detective Comics number 323, Doom Patrol number 14, House of Mystery number 177, House of Secrets number 108. Oh my god, there's so much stuff, you guys. Legion of Superheroes Annual number 4, Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane, Donnell's favorite series number 13, and World Without End number 4. Now, what are you guys reading this week? Just anything. I know.
We're all reading The Silencer. That's why we're quiet.
Well, I'm definitely going to set some time aside to read those Looney Tune specials. I love the Looney Tunes.
I've been working through those.
Okay,
are they good?
I want your favorite 4. I want you to rank all the ones you've read. Just rank them in order.
The ones I've read. Wonder Woman and Taz, then Bugs Bunny, and probably the Batman one. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, for some reason I read the Batman one too. It was okay. Yeah.
Was the Batman one with Elmer Fudd?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to read that one.
So I didn't have enough time to read anything on the list this week, because school's starting. But I have heard that the Lex Luthor Porky Pig one is the best one of the 4.
Oh,
it's new today.
I haven't read that one yet.
So that's my advice. But I haven't read it, so I can't actually tell you. I've just read that it's the best one of the new 4, not the old 4.
On the other stuff, and I think I already commented on your thread there, Nathan, the Batgirl 26. Not at all happy with it. It is not the best of Batgirl. I mean, I've read a lot of Batgirl even since 2000. This it just didn't have the pizzazz I expect out of a particular era of Batgirl. Anybody else read it?
No.
I did read 25, which includes the first part of the volume of 26, right? So 26 is the starting point, right? You really want to start with 25 because part 1 of the story is in there. And I like 25. I thought it was fun. But I know 26 is basically a chase sequence. So I know chase sequences normally aren't that good in comics. And yet comic writers tend to do it anyway. I've never understood it. But because it's all reliant on the art, and you can't really have dialogue while doing a chase sequence. So it's always a little bit of a mess. So that would be my guess as to what your problem is.
Yeah, because normally what I like about Batgirl is the supporting cast. She's had some really interesting people since the New 52 on and in Rebirth, and that just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Oh, no. They dumped them?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know where they are, but all those fun people, and I seem to remember her being on she would take the public transportation. She was on her phone, all that.
Yeah, I think part of it, and this is something just to think about, is I've been talking about this a little bit with the reading order especially, but DC's been doing this sort of soft reboot of every single title. Wow, good job, phone. But DC's been doing the soft reboot of every title, and one thing I think that's hard is they've kept it very quiet, right? So literally everything's a starting point, the exception of which is Red Hood hasn't gotten one yet. But Red Hood's the next issue is literally getting a retitling to Red Hood Outlaw. because it's the first issue where he's by himself. And so everything, and it's such a big reboot that the trade series is restarting back at volume 1. So like everything is having this like revamp, right? And Batgirl's just getting its revamp. So you can consider really the end of the Rebirth run, 1 through 24, and now you're in the post Summer of Events Justice No Justice run, which is 25 on. Some of the big highlights of this run include Dick Grayson and Batgirl becoming a thing. But unfortunately, that won't work for very long for a reason I'm not going to talk about.
Ooh. Now I'm curious. Let's see. Wednesday I picked up Doomsday Clock issue 11. It was good. It was really kind of just a review of everything that's happened since issue 1, kind of, which I guess is good because every time a new issue comes out, I have to like reread them all because it's been so long in between the issues. But
yeah,
this was the first one though that I was kind
of so
like,
long. Families have come and gone in the 3.
But it was good. I mean, the art was great, of course. And then I also picked up Deceased tie-in, A Good Day to Die. That was fantastic. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It had Big Barda and Scott in it, Scott Free, and it was awesome. I loved it, and it had Booster Gold and all that. It was great.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I have heard a lot of good things about Good Way to Die. And I think Tom Taylor's doing a great job on Deceased. I think there's been a lot of positive reception to it, and I hope it continues. What, there's one more issue left, or is it 2?
I think 2 more, and I'm so glad. I didn't know they were gonna have a tie-in, so like that's kind of like a bonus issue for me. So I was definitely happy about that.
So Don L, I know you wanted to talk about Millennium, #1, Legion, and I read it too.
Oh, good. Yeah. Now, did you buy a physical copy or digital?
I read it digitally.
Me too. And that's I haven't purchased anything in several months because of the bounty we have between DC Unlimited, Marvel Unlimited, Comixology Unlimited. I can't even keep up with it. So I plunked down some considerable cash to read this one. It wasn't bad. But I just felt, and I did a little review. I think Vroom has a thread on. Everything was just too fast for me. So in other words, what they did in passing with Kamadi and all this, I already know all that, right? I've actually lived through these. I've read them live, right, as they happened 70s on. And what the only one I didn't was whatever I'm forgetting the name now of those space ring people that they showed Tommy there. But it was just too short of a time.
The Planeteers.
The Planeteers. I'm not as familiar with, but the rest I knew. And thank you. See, it's good to have Nathan back. The man's like a walking encyclopedia.
I'm not. I just read the issue, and I have a better memory.
That's what I'm trying to say. So anyway, but like the whole thing with Rose and Thorn wasn't really well developed. It's like basically, it's almost like she feels like she's on the same merry-go-round I do with how fast everything's spinning through the centuries.
Well, I'll say this real quick, just so you know. Rose and Thorn was actually reintroduced into the timeline in Action Comics Bendis's run around with I think it was the first of the Event Leviathan tie-ins with Action Comics. So I get your frustration. You're probably a little bit like, who's Rose and Thorn, right? It's been so long. And part of it is jumping in, it felt more natural to me because I'd already gotten the introduction to the character, and the character's gone through some story already. And so I think for me, it worked a little bit better. I also, being newer to the DCU future timelines, because that's not really the type of stuff I read, like it was very enjoyable getting some sort of path through. And I heard a lot of people wanting it to be like the definitive timeline. And I think in reality, it was like this event happened, and then this series, and then this series, and not this happened, and this event resulted in this. And, it didn't feel like a continuous stream so much as like singular moments, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. And I certainly enjoyed the various art styles as they went to the different periods. And it's always fun to have Batman Beyond show up, right? But again, I would have enjoyed it a lot more if they'd used twice or even 3 times the amount of time for each time period and dug in, but also dug into her character as far as this wonderful philosophical question of, does anyone really want to live forever? What would that really be like? And psychologically, how would you handle even going past 150 years of life when you think of the radical changes that happen between generations? What's your life really all about and all that. But they didn't really dig into that angst, that sort of, the abyss, they call it. None of that. It just shows they're getting more and more confused as the centuries go by.
And I think part of it, right, and this is just something to think about before I move on, is that she's going crazy, and you can sort of see that over time, right? She's very sane in the President Supergirl scene, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure Bendis is just teasing the next arc of his run, because the next arc is titled President of Earth in Superman, so I'm pretty sure he's just doing a plot teaser there. But I think there's this idea that she is going insane, right? And she's trying to find a way to keep her sanity in check. But as everyone she knows dies, and Commandy's like the last boy on Earth, she's gone crazy.
Right.
And so, and we're not even halfway through to getting the Legion of Superheroes.
I interject with a question.
Yeah.
What this female character? What's her name now?
So her name is Rose, but she's also Thorn. So I guess I should have led with this. So Rose and Thorn are like the same person. It's like a Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, where like they're two different people living inside the same body, and one of them's evil, one of them's good. And I think it's Rose. Rose is like this normal human being. But Thorn, who's inside of her, is this very evil person who's fought a lot of bad guys over the years, landed in Arkham. And then when Thorn gives up and gives the body back to Rose, Rose is always like, doesn't know what happened. And she's like, why am I in Arkham Asylum? Thorn, and she's seen herself do things through clips, but she, of course, it's not her body anymore. It's her body, but she's not in control. And part of the idea is that this strange circumstance has given her immortality, whereas you watch characters like Supergirl slowly, like, who are aging somewhat. With Rose and Thorn, she has immortality, so she's the lens through which we go through all the timelines because she's lived through everything.
Now, to interject, you realize one of the big issues about this is Superman never ages. So we see him 1 billion years in the future and he's still all rosy and about 30 something. Poor Supergirl goes through a couple of decades and suddenly she looks like an old hen,
Yeah. What? Okay, so that's not the character. Like, you mentioned something about her being in the Leviathan. Like, who? Because in that prequel thing to Leviathan, it shows like the Leviathan character like with like some kind of descrambler like face mask or something, talking to a woman who's like in power of some sorts, and I had no idea who that lady was. Is that her or no?
Is Leviathan? Oh, are you saying in Action Comics?
No, it's not. It might have been Action Comics. It was like a prequel or thing leading up to the Leviathan, the comic where like Superman gets kidnapped, or maybe it wasn't when he got kidnapped, but it was like
okay.
It was Leviathan talking to. It was like it was a big issue or whatever. Shucks, I wish I could remember what her name was.
Okay, so I'll say this: I'm not going to spoil the plot because we should move on because this isn't coming to DCU for another year. But I think part of what you're trying to get at is that there's a couple powerful female characters. There's Lois Lane, Talia al Ghul, and Rose and Thorn. Now, Rose and Thorn is introduced after Leviathan Rising. Leviathan is the main event. So the first issue of Leviathan came out, and then the first tie-in to Leviathan came out, which is Action Comics number 12, I think. So that might be who you're thinking of, and you just read like all the Action Comic stuff, and then you jumped into Event Leviathan. I don't know. Either way, it's actually not that important the order you read the Event Leviathan series so far, because there's not been any like continuity push. It's just like read like seeing like characters that revolve around the event. It's not so much like the events themselves that are being tied in, but the characters. Moving on. So we have some news for you guys. Community 2.0 is coming in. Yeah, I know. Community 2.0 is coming in mid-October, and this is already confirmed. This isn't new news. But Applejack has announced her first plans past Community 2.0. So in response to a question asked by Wilkins Wankins, who asked, quote, will Community 2.0 upgrade the news section as well? It will be super helpful to have tags on news articles, especially for recurring series like Ask the Question and Where to Start Reading Blah, 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 blah comics, end quote. So we can easily access, this is still Willy Wankins, so we can easily access every article from those series on one page if we ever wanted to refer back to them. And the big news is Applejack's response, where she said, that's a phase 2 plan. In addition to having comments on the news articles, all exploratory now, but functionality we're chopping at the bit for, you're totally right. We should be able to provide you an archive of the column. So what she's saying here is that they have a phase 2 plan, which includes revamping the news articles. What's important to know is that this is probably, my guess is this is December update stuff, given developments past. But it's exciting to know that there are plans to continue developing community features past Community 2.0. Do you guys have anything you want to say about that before we move on? Or here, what are some, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think that's awesome because the news section's kind of really hard to navigate, especially with all the polls and everything in there. You can't really get to the stuff that you want to see, so that's going to be cool.
Yeah, let's do this. What's one feature you want to be in the future of Community 2.0, which isn't in there so far? And if you say it and it's in there, I'll let you know. So I'll start first. I want them to redo all the tags so that you can make your own tag. That sounds basic, but I really want it.
Yeah, I'll second that. Like, 'cause when I go to put a tag on, like some things are just not available. Like, I want to say just a straight up Superman, like typing in Superman isn't a tag that's available.
Yeah, well, actually,
using baby Superman.
I don't know why it's not available. It's one of the weird things. I'm gonna mess with that real quick. Well,
but then Mordrew comes up of all things. I can use Mordrew as a
yeah. I can't use Young Justice Outsiders. I can't use Young Justice Outsiders. You know, but then you can use Mordrew. It's so funny.
Well, I think in the end, and frankly, I don't use enough other social websites outside of like a LinkedIn to really know what would work. But it is very ponderous to use the current community. I think it's why there's so little participation by the, whatever it is, 100,000 DCU users. It's just you can get lost so quickly. And just like I have bookmarked, right? My bookmarks are almost unnavigable. I've got like 50 bookmarks. And I go back and resuscitate stuff. Nathan, you used to have a weekly, what was the best thread thing you did? I keep wanting to bring that up, so maybe you'll do that again. But there's all this cool stuff. It's accumulated in a year, and wouldn't it be great to have an easy way, as you're saying, even for the participant to tag it so they can find it later?
I keep the stuff I know I'm gonna bump in the future. Like I know I'll want to bump, but don't want to bump every day to keep it in there. So my reading order is the big one I tag. By the way, on the Superman tag, there is a Superman tag that's not Baby Superman, but it's at the bottom of the tag list. Baby Superman, because of alphabetical order, is at the top.
But Baby Superman's fun.
Yeah, but it's anyway. Just wanted to make that specification.
Okay, my bad.
No, it's just fine. There's a couple, but like Young Justice Outsiders isn't on there. I don't even think Titans is.
I gotta say I have concerns.
Titans is not a tag. Titans is not a tag.
That's crazy. Now, what my concern is, do you remember when they first redid everything? Remember we were going along for like a month and a half, 2 months, and then they suddenly changed everything on us? Do you recall
that? I don't remember what you're talking about.
Yeah. There was a point when we first started where they only had like 2 or 3 main rooms or areas. Then they expanded it to what they have now, where the fan fiction is in general. There was a different order when we first came in, and they were going to move things around. That was a little. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah. So back when the Watchtower was just anything goes.
Right.
Everybody was just posting in there.
I know. I felt so bad for DC. They were like, "What do we do?"
So that all changed, right? But it was a little confusing at first. It was hard to find your favorite threads and where they moved to. And I got to admit, I do have big concerns once Community 2.0 comes out. We won't be able to find anything, or it's going to be so dense that when, you know, how hard it is now to get a thread to take off. Can you imagine where our fan fiction is going to go? If it gets too big, it's going to be like no one's even going to know we're posting anything. I just hope that doesn't happen.
You think the community will get too big?
I think just the navigation, the fact that it'll be all new and all different, we're all going to have to relearn. And everyone on this podcast are huge fans of that community. For the casual user, it might be too much. They might just take one look at it and go, I'm not learning.
Okay, so I'll say this. Okay, for everyone worried about Community 2.0, I can't say much because it'd be unethical for me to, because it's off the record. But I can say your concerns are eased. Basically, I've just gotten some photos I can't talk about, but I've seen some photos I can't talk about. But what I can say is you guys are overreacting, because a couple things. One, I think you can subscribe to a user. I think. Don't quote me on that. But I think you can subscribe to a user, and it's not going to be by order of most recent post. So popular postings are more likely to show up first. So, for example, my DC Rebirth reading order will get moved to a wiki section. So, or that's the plan at least. And so you guys will be able to access that differently. And it'll be easier to navigate and stuff. And I think for certain things, like the most popular threads, you'll be able to see easier. My guess is it'll be a mix of the two. I'm not fully certain on that. But I think you guys are a little overreacting. I think when you guys get a chance to actually see Community 2.0, you guys will realize that it's going to be fantastic.
Who is this you guys? Like, I think it's just Donnell.
Well, it's Donnell and Aquaman.
No, all I was expressing was just worried about having to relearn things. Like I remember when I switched from like Apple to like a Droid, getting used to that OS was kind of a pain in the butt. But like I know some people complain about the way the community thing's set up, but this is my first interaction with any kind of like online discussion board thing, so I really don't have anything else to compare it to. So it's fine by me. But I was just a little concerned. I mean, not like raising a fuss by any means, just about having to relearn some things or whatever.
So I'll say two things. One, there will be a tutorial section when you walk into the Community 2.0 where it'll walk you through some of the basics. So you should be able to, so including there's missions, they'll be like, you posted your first thing and that sort of stuff. And so on that regard, you'll be just fine. Because like worst case relearning, you'll have like a tutorial or whatever to relearn it. The other thing is it's very sleek. The layout's going to be very sleek. And so it's one of the things I wouldn't even worry about until after you see it. Let's move on. Continuing with the Community 2.0 discussion, well, sort of. This is more DC Universe Year 1 discussion. Office Hours, the famous thing that I hope everyone's used, is having a special edition with the following people. Basically, so these are people who work in the DCU offices but have never like talked in public about their job. So one of them was DC Hal, captain of our ship, the mastermind who oversees all elements of what makes the DC Universe engagement team, and then some, tick. Rob, developer extraordinaire, the brains behind the tech and ringmaster of developers, programmers, coders, and more. Joe, the news editor, manager of staff of writers, knower of all things and doer of the encyclopedia. To be determined username, meaning we just don't know who they haven't decided their username yet. Robin is the news coordinator, who makes sure all our news gets out on time and that everything has hilarious titles and sharp wit imbued into all we do, from push notifications to newsletters to you name it. Another to be determined username who's currently thinking about Halo, the person who gets together all our newsletters and coordinates what events and comic issues and television to highlight every week. So they're the person who chooses what things you guys see on the front pages. Siege Hay is our master of collections who compiles each and every collection we put on the service. This is also our DC Santa who hand selects the gifts for every community hero. So I'm going to give a big thank you to DC Santa right now because they sent me some wonderful stuff. And last but not least, Merp Burt, our asset manager, who makes sure that all the artwork we feature on the service is high quality and the best possible choice to represent what we're trying to communicate. She is also the person who organizes our office parties and makes sure we dress up for Halloween. And last but not least, Applejack, who you guys all know, right? So I don't know if you guys have anything to say on this specific topic, other than
Well,
you
I
guys
thought
should
it
go
was
check it out.
great. It was almost like when you're a kid and you pick up a rock and you see what's underneath it, right? Suddenly we see this vast organization that we had no idea was even there. I think it's really neat.
Did you think it was just all Applejack?
I didn't think it was all Applejack, and I knew she had bosses, but I always got confused, like, where does this suddenly go to the Burbank studio people or to, other parts of
Yeah.
DC or Warner? So this kind of gives us a better idea of what's going on in the office. I mean, we're all well aware that whatever DC Universe is about, the community is just some tiny 10% of the, let's say, the energy used by the battery called DC Universe per day.
Yeah, right. I'm excited to learn more about the underlying work, for sure. Do you guys have any other DC Universe Year One celebration is still going on? That's what this is part of, right? It's a celebration of the fans, so they're giving fans new ways to communicate with DC Universe team. So how is your Year One going?
Well, I had a great time today. I read New 52's Year One celebration. She did a great job of taking every creative thing that was done for original programming and made it into a big fourth wall breaking. And thanks very much, New 52. That was a lot of fun to read.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for reading it. I didn't know if this one was going to be good because I was trying something new I've never done before, so I hope more people read it.
Yeah, guys, go check that out. I had a wonderful Year One so far. So I forgot totally about it, but I got contacted and I got asked to put one of my questions to Greg Wiseman in the DC for a DC Daily interview. And I forgot I did it because it was like a week ago, and now I have all sorts of other craziness going on in my life. But I get a notification like from someone on Discord who's like, I saw your message in your question in the DC Daily, and I was like, oh yeah, and so I like watched it until I got to my part, and I was like, I need to go to bed because I need to wake up at 6 in the morning. Yeah, but it was really cool. So I asked when did you find out about Young Justice Outsiders returning? You know, like when did you find out that Young Justice was being renewed? And there's some really funny and interesting answers. And so I hope you guys check that out because it should be a lot of fun. That's the Young Justice celebration.
I wonder when Jim Kruger is going to be on. I think Aquaman, you and I had questions for Jim Kruger.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm kind of bad about asking questions, like on the office hour thing. I normally just ask silly things to Applejack. I know she gets all these like serious questions, so I just try to put something goofy on there. But,
I think she loves the levity, like the ability to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought it was cool when they had the intern on at the same time as her, and they had two at the same time. That was hilarious.
Oh yeah, Shiva Diva or Diva Shiva.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of New 52, which we were doing earlier, I want to give New 52 a big thank you for reading my Overboy series.
Oh, it's really good. Everybody should check it out.
So, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to do some shameless advertising because I've been gone for 3 weeks, so why not? I'm telling the story of Overboy. Well, it's called Overboy Volume 1, but Overboy doesn't actually show up. It's part of the Super Sons of Elseworlds collection of shorts I'm doing, but I'm opening it with a bigger volume 12-issue run, and the other issues will all be one. But it's like called Super Sons of Elseworlds, and so it's like I'm looking at like Elseworld situations. It's like, if this Elseworld were to happen, what do the Super Sons look like? And I started with the classic Superman's a Nazi. But of course, I didn't want to make Superman just like an evil Nazi, because then that story stops being interesting and starts and the plot doesn't go anywhere, right? Other than like Resistance versus Superman's, like, gets boring. So I tried to find a more nuanced approach. Well, he's still a Nazi and he's still bad, he's more nuanced. And then I want to take that nuance, which is in Volume 1, and I want to turn it into Volume 2. and Batman's in there, Hal Jordan's in there, Lex Luthor's in there, Robin's in there. A lot of the big characters of the DC were in there, and so because I wanted to like be an Elseworld, right? This is the world story, right? And so you guys should go check that out. It's only 6 issues long. Although 6 issues like 22 pages, so I get it. But anyway, you guys should go check that out.
Well, and while we're talking about creativity with the podcast here, my jaw dropped to the floor when Aquaman C-137 revealed his artistic chops, doing a tribute to my silly little comic strip that I post every week and color. All of a sudden, Aquaman draws this, basically it's an homage to the famous crisis scene of Superman holding Supergirl dead. But he has Jim and poor Sally. As those of nobody thankfully hears this on the podcast. But after the podcast, Aquaman keeps begging me to use the red color and to have Jim, my character, be a mad serial killer and all this. It hasn't happened, it won't. But it's nice to have an homage of my own then on the our artwork for DC Year One. Aquaman actually posted his very nicely drawn as compared to my crude sketchings. So again, applause, my friend. We'd love to see more of your artwork.
Yes, that shading's amazing.
Yeah, Donnell, you already have fan art.
Oh, I know. That's the thing. It's like that's what I said in the. I don't know if you read this yet. Aquaman C-137, but I'm like, a year ago, if someone had told me I was going to have somebody drawing artwork based on my cartoon, I'd be like, "What? What are you talking about?"
No, thanks, y'all. I haven't drawn anything in like a long time, but I thought that would be fun to do. I love your comic strip, and I was looking at the latest edition, and I see that the superhero guy has he's got red eyes, and I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna go evil. And I'm rooting for it, man. I hope
you're
it goes
always hoping for that.
Go on.
No, you can go. Or no. So we're running out of time, and which means it's really shame on me because there's probably more news. But I really, 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 really want to talk about the elephant in the room. Titan Season 2, Episode 1, Trigon. Because I can't believe we haven't talked about it yet. Like, we've been so good at, like, talking about other stuff that we just forgot to talk about the main attraction. So what'd you guys think?
Well, the three of us just came back from the watch-along, so we all were watching it at the same time. I think it really showed a lot of promise in the last third of the episode when it was actually Season 2.
Yeah. I was debating whether to even call it episode, like the premiere of episodes of like Season 2, because it's not really. It's so I think this is the best way to explain it. The like back third is really tacked on because they didn't want to end with the conclusion of Season 1. They really wanted to end at least with some sense of where the season was going forward. So it's really like watching two different episodes, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're watching a finale and a premiere.
Yeah. It was like a finale with a extended teaser for Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the finale. I'll give my thoughts. I think probably if you saw what I was posting during it, you already know what they are. But in the end, I'm glad it's over. I'll put it that way. But you want to talk about Deus Ex Machina, where all this leads up to basically Raven sneezing in Trigon's con. It's kind of silly. I mean, that's not exactly how you do it. You know what I mean? That's like, oh, you wasted me an entire 12, all these dream sequences I had to wade through, including the final episode. One more dream sequence. Oh, boy.
Well, it wasn't one more. It wasn't, wait. It wasn't one more dream sequence. It wasn't one more dream sequence. It was like 7 dream sequences.
Yes, I know. And it's like, I get it, but I don't get it. But it's okay. Let's go forward. I mean, there was some nice little team building. I'm all about team building. In my real life, I get involved with that. So it's very nice. Good to see people learning to trust each other and care for each other like we do here on the podcast.
Did anyone?
But,
did anyone understand why Raven had to save Dick from his nightmare when Like, he didn't even end up helping her against Trigon or anything. She could have just done that on her own.
So my theory, okay, is it's not a why, it's a why the producers decided to do it that way, is because season 1 was really all about Dick and Raven's relationship, right? It's about and as any season finale tries to do it, they try to go full circle, right? So they try to tie in like themes from the beginning into the end. And one of the opening sequence of Titan season 1, thank you Binge Edition, by the way. Absolute Binge Edition is the only reason I know this. Is the opening sequence of season 1 is Dick losing his parents in the circus, and I think part of it is they're trying to tie that back in. And there's a sense that Ravens had throughout the first episode that Dick is part of my story, right? And I think for whatever reason, and the producers I think wanted to do that full circle approach and have Dick, who's been fighting his darkness, finally confront it, and like let his darkness go. I think that's part of it. Is Dick has all this like darkness built into him after season 1, and part of what Ravens and the producers are doing is they're trying to give Dick an excuse to let it go, to like, to be a new person. That being said, it was a very clumsy scene. It like was very confusing. I've done way too much research into like why they into the season to like have like even a guess, but it's like it was a mess. Like I didn't think the season premiere was good, or I liked it, but I don't think it was a very well written series at all. I think it had a bunch of really cool individual segments, but it's like things like Gar became a snake, which is the first time that he's become something that's not a tiger, and it's supposed to be like this big exciting thing. And that was like what, why,
Yeah. And I didn't really feel that Gar and Rachel were that close. Like him touching her snapped her out. Like, okay.
Yeah, I think if I finished the binge of season 1, I might feel a little differently. But I think that's part of the problem, right? Is we've all forgotten everything from season 1, right? And so I remember the ending shot with like Dick's eyes going black or whatever, but that's about it. And so I think that's my big frustration, is it was a horrible choice, partly because we've just forgotten everything.
And what happened with all of those scenes with like the new outfits and everything?
I think that's later.
Yeah, I think it's coming. Well,
no, but remember they shot it for the finale.
Oh yeah, she's talking about when like Raven's in her like costume accurate like hood and everything, and Starfire has that like different like yeah.
Well, I think obviously the finale changed somewhat, right?
Yeah.
I think it's possible they didn't like. It's quite possible they didn't like where the Trigon story was going to end, and they thought the dream sequence would be a bigger ending with Batman sort of appearing. I think they thought that would be a better ending than what ended up happening. I would have much rather seen the official end of the season rather than this like fake like attempt. But
what's curious is the whole history thing too. Think about it. This was a year ago this came out. And at the time, that whole crude language thing was thought to be really cool. There was kind of a counter reaction, a little bit anyway, with Doom Patrol. I'm thinking that they retooled a lot of where they plan to go with Titan based on market research, whatever, the past year. I think we're going to have a very different Titans now than we did last year because of it. I think it kind of shows in this fragmented premiere.
Well, I think what New 52 is saying about the third half being way better, or the third, not third half, but third, like the back third was a much better experience,
Like it was very executed.
Like Wintergreen and Slade having the funny moment where Jason goes, "Titans is back, bitches," which I literally, to give you a perspective of how much that line has been stuck in my brain. I woke up at 6 a.m. and the Titans episode debuts at 6 a.m. So I'm like right when it comes on because I just happened to be up, just wake up just then. They woke up and my first thought is alarm clock. My second thought was Titans are back, and I bitches, and I said the line, and it was, but I think that whole half was way more entertaining, right? Seeing the headquarters. All that was way more entertaining, and it had a lot more levity to it, right? And I think Jason Todd, part of why I'm glad he's going to be season regular, is because he's like the funniest character.
Yeah, and one thing you said about it having more levity, so I know me personally, I know other people express they're a little bummed out about how the first season was kind of like a slow burn. But I'm grateful for it now because like that second half of the premiere, like you really feel the chemistry of like the team and everything. Like it's a lot more fluid, you know. I feel like it's gonna. I mean, it'll still have dark tones to it, but I feel like it's gonna be more lighthearted, like fun Titan stuff. And I feel like we couldn't have done that. It couldn't have been executed as good if we hadn't spent all that time in the first season, developing those bonds and relationships. So like I really enjoyed the second half of it.
The funny part to me is that the interactions I liked the most from this episode were the ones with Jason Todd and everyone else, like him and Hank and him and Raven. And that wasn't really set up previously that much.
No.
Well, no, but we got to know Hank and Dawn and Jason, and we got to learn that that's how their characters are, though. So like when you see them when you see them together for the first time, you don't really like question it. It just seems natural because you know those characters already.
I almost felt like they were going to create two separate Titans, East Coast and West Coast or something, the way that they separated the older Titans from the younger.
Well, I actually think what it is, it's going to be a series of flashbacks. And we talked about this some, but I think I haven't talked about it for like 3 weeks. But I think part of what is there's going to be the old Titans, because this is the part that bothered me the most. They just started throwing in the idea that the Titans are back and all this stuff, and like started calling people Titans when they'd never said the word Titans in the like entirety of the first season. So it was like one of those like weird things where like now there's Titans before, like they're like, you know what, we need to yeah, and like they decided to make it's like that threw me off. Like why not just be like they were the Teen Titans, now we have the Titans, But I think what it is we're gonna see the original Titans in like the past, and we're gonna see their interaction with Deathstroke, and we're gonna learn about where we're gonna see Deathstroke's family, and then in the present we're gonna see Deathstroke fighting now. So you can have like a 2-pronged story approach. That's my theory.
I'm not real thrilled with the guns. I'm not real thrilled with the guns thing, and I think some of it's because of what's happening to us as a nation these days, right? But it's just having these kids up against some sharpshooter that, in my mind, can't end well, or at least by the end of the season, they can't all possibly still be on the cast if you got somebody, flying bullets everywhere.
I understand your concern, but I mean, how would they revamp that character without that as part of his, like having his arsenal? I mean, that's part of his character. I mean, I know he's got the sword, but he barely busts that sword out.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, they could have leaned heavier on the sword or the fighting that he does, the fact he can do so many fighting styles and all that. I don't know. I just bringing up the heavy artillery. Let's just say if they knew then when they filmed this several months ago what was going to happen the past 2 months in our country, they might have rethought that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, really think about the last 2 years if you want to talk about mass shootings. I mean, what, like last year before, there was one for almost like every week of the year.
Yeah, we're at 1 per day. We're at more than 1 per day right now. It's like real bad. And I'm not going to get political here, even though I'm political, but it's like, I get where you're going, Donnell. I don't think Deathstroke's the sort of character who would do a mass shooting. I don't think that's Deathstroke. He's a character who's had a lot of tragedy in his life, and he has a vendetta against just the name Titans. Like, this is what I don't understand. If they like called themselves like the Scoopers, instead of the Titans, they were like, and we're the Scoopers, like would Deathstroke be angry? No, it's the fact that they chose the name Titans.
No, I mean Deathstroke's angry because he lost his son because of the Titans. He doesn't approve of having young kids as superheroes. That's his whole thing with the Titans.
Oh, right. Like in the John's one in the early 2000s.
Well, I mean, going back to the 80s run, you know what I mean? When he lost his, the first Ravager, Grant, his son and everything. And I imagine that's what the feud's going to be between them.
I think that'll be the past sequence, right? Isn't the past where like
that'll be what they'll use for the flashbacks, and will be like the what brings back the old like grudge and resentment, and him seeing that they reestablished the Titans, and he's not down with that.
Yeah. Well, I see there's like 13 episodes on DCU, so I think that we're going to get way past all that too.
I know, right? I'm like actually excited that there's more episodes this time around, because hopefully that means we have a proper season finale. I'm sorry. Like, I was reading like reviews this morning, and everyone was just so angry at like the hodgepodge that was the episode. And I'm like, I get it, you know? And like, I enjoyed the second half, but the first half was a mess, you know? Like, I didn't need 12 dream sequences. In fact, the Hank Dong one didn't even make any sense. Like, where he like
everybody else kills people and they do drugs. Like, how's that even equal?
I don't even
Well,
know.
of course,
And
so like
how did-
I was saying, Jason doesn't need tempted. He's already on Trigon's side before you start.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
I love that. I saw that.
Corey was just like, oh, okay, bye, Rachel.
Yeah, I was like, what? I don't even know what happened. But like, okay,
But
the
you know what's
weirdest
funny
one.
is, in spite of all that, I did like Titans last season overall. I've been looking
Yeah,
forward to this.
absolutely.
I'm happy we still have original programming on our
Amen.
DC Universe, because we all were dreading whether it even be one after the whole thing with Swamp Thing. So here we go. Let's take a deep breath. And by the way, I'm still very psyched about Stargirl, even though there has been zero. This scares me. Zero news about Stargirl.
Okay, so
well, one of the actors just said they finished filming recently.
Yeah, and the other thing
I'm sure we'll get some from New York Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing to know about Stargirl, because I know Applejack has said this, is they started filming before Titan season 1. They've been, I think, doing, and Applejack says it's her favorite of the shows, from what she's seen, and she's seen all, and she's gotten to see like the first episode or like 2, and she says it's like her favorite of all of them. And I think it's going to be really good. I do know they've been working on it for a long time, and we're still seeing casting announcements and stuff. So I think they're constantly going back and revising it. And Geoff Johns is really taking the year to make like one of his signature characters perfect. Right? And so
and that's the thing. Yeah, and that's the thing, because Johns was like, I think that was like his first assignment, like working on Stargirl, right? Like, I know she's near and dear to his heart, so I'm sure he's going to put everything into it, and I got nothing but faith in that guy.
And we also know we're getting news about it at New York Comic Con. So for anyone questioning what's going on, they saved that for New York Comic Con. They also probably, I'm hoping, saved the Krypton announcement for New York Comic Con, and they're saved, and we know they've saved Community 2.0 for Comic Con. So, New York Comic Con. Speaking of which, when is New York Comic Con?
I was just going to ask you. I have no idea.
It's October 3rd to 6th, so we are a month away. So I hope that got it. We're a month away.
Uh-oh. You
Okay.
lost Nathan.
I know. I'm here.
You scared us.
I don't know what happened, but we're a month away from New York Comic Con.
Okay, cool.
That is very concerned about. Yeah.
Before we leave Titans, I just want to say their music this episode was amazing.
I know. Titans is like the best music.
Awesome.
Even acoustic piano. I love that. There was one section, I forget which part, one of those towards the Deus Ex Machina, where they really brought on some great piano.
Sorry, this is really bothering me. Deus Ex Machina. Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, instead of Machina? Oh.
Yeah, because it's Latin.
Ooh,
you get that wrong.
Yeah, I just know.
Well, I've always loved Machina. I can't help it.
Yeah, that song at the end when they're like going through Titan Tower, that was great. Like, and the score from the first season was just like, whoever does the soundtracks for that show, they should win some kind of award.
I know, right? But they're not going to win anything, unfortunately, because not enough people watch Titans. But, however, I will say this: I did dislike the backstory. It had like the same music throughout. Like, it was all gorgeous, but it like felt like concluding music that just never concluded. Like, it was like a 14-minute ending.
How well?
Yeah. Okay, but anyway. Do you guys want to conclude?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Poor Nathan. It was good having him back, wasn't it? Did anyone want to say a word about Nathan? Because, he's no longer with us. But the thing I liked about Nathan best was the energy he brought to these broadcasts.
Okay, I don't know what's going on.
It's almost like you're some superhero going in and out of dimension.
I would like to say something. I'd like to leave a shout out. Thank you to Applejack if she ever hears this. I got one of those fancy emails from about the community hero thing or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna get some free stuff.
That reminds me of what I was going to say. New 52. In Millennium, his use of Thorn reminds me very much of the character Scarlet that I got from in my community hero package that Bendis wrote. So the character of Scarlet reminds me a lot of Rose and Thorn as far as the violence and the outside the law type.
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't pick that up. So like Wednesday when I was at the comic shop, I got Doomsday Clock and Deceased. I don't know how I overlooked that because I've been looking forward to that the last couple months. Yeah. But I'm gonna have to go back and get that.
It's just all right,
It's
just all right.
Leader of the book club over here.
Let's see what the second issue's like. I mean, again, it certainly isn't directly about the Legion, and it kind of reminds me of those comics that have in the 80s, these guidebooks to the DC world, where you'd buy like 10 issues and it would introduce you to each character's backstory. I forget what it was called. Kind of reminds me more of that.
So it's like, it's more like a bunch of one-shots?
It's like there is no plot. So basically, zero plot. It's just, here's the different time periods of the DC universe. Here's Thorn walking through them and poking people as she goes through, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to hash out Millennium more than we already did. But I liked it, but it's not the greatest comic. And it didn't do what it set out to do. It's really more like touring the different areas, like touring the different time periods, than actually learning the different time periods. And we'll see. Maybe issue 2 will do it justice. I think there'll be an interesting thing where John is both in the past and the future. And I can't wait to see John again. He's still one of my favorite characters.
Well, I'm glad we're bringing this up one more time because, Nathan, my concern too is we don't know how Doomsday Clock ends. And there has to be a connection between the ending of Doomsday Clock and what Bendis is doing with this 2 issue.
This is confusing. Doomsday Clock is super confusing. I will say this. We do know from Justice League number 31 that Brainiac is bottling up our potential futures. Not just our present. They're trying to bottle up our present. He's been bottling up our potential futures. So the reason why Justice League number 31 has a different continuity from Doomsday Clock, and it seems like Millennium might have a different continuity from Doomsday Clock and Justice League number 31, is that these are potential futures. And my guess is Millennium will be the actual future. If that makes sense. But who knows? Well, is there anything else you guys want to talk about this week?
Wow, what a question. What a loaded question.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everyone on the East Coast was safe from the hurricane.
Yeah.
How about you, man?
Yeah.
You're actually there where the action was.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm fine. I feel so bad for the people in the Bahamas. My goodness. Shucks, man. That was so nasty. But here in Carolina, it wasn't bad. It was a Category 2, which is kind of nothing if you've been through hurricanes. I did see 3 tornado alerts, but it was pretty much just a bunch of rain and wind.
I always just shake my head when I watch this weather. Where I live, we don't have any of this. We don't have hurricanes. We don't have tornadoes. We don't have earthquakes. We just have a little snow. It's fine.
A little.
Yeah,
well, whatever it is, it's not anything that'll kill you normally. But it's like, you just, if you're prepared, it's fine. But it's just like as we're driving to Chicago and I'm going to these different areas like Ohio, they're utterly flat. It's like, of course they're going to have tornadoes. There's no hills to stop them. It's just interesting how we all settle in places like the coastal areas where all this crazy stuff happens. But that's what we do as a human race.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like 1/3 of humanity's population lives on the coast pretty much.
Well, like those horrible tsunamis over in Southeast Asia. Terrible.
Oh yeah, those are gnarly, man. Oh my goodness.
Right, but
200,000 gone.
LA's aren't that bad though. Like LA's tsunamis. So I mean, like the West Coast tsunamis aren't bad.
Over there in the Pacific Ocean, and you all call them tsunamis, and over here we call them hurricanes.
And the tsunamis are different from hurricanes. It's cyclones and hurricanes.
What do you mean? You talking about just like big old tidal waves, tsunamis?
So hurricanes, right? You guys know what hurricanes are. Cyclones is hurricanes in the Pacific Ocean, and then tsunamis are waves caused by earthquakes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I do know that. I promise.
I believe you. You're what? Marine biology major?
Yeah, but no, they're called from like geometric, like geoactivity. Yeah, when but what was that one like in 2010 or something? That one was insane.
That's what I was referring to. The one that wiped out like I think close to 250,000 people. Horrible. Yeah. Horrible. Well, the reason Aquaman gets confused is he's all obsessed about the shark brain classes.
It's super cool.
Well, is there anything else you guys want to say before we go into the weekend?
I'll just end it. Everybody out of the room now. There's a dangerous possible something happening here any second.
You remind me of the narrator from the Aquaman cartoon from, what was it, the 60s?
Apparently.
67.
I mean, Donnell, did you ever watch the Aquaman cartoon?
No, and is it still there for us to watch? Because I know it did come up on...
no, like when you were a child. Did you?
Oh, no. I used to watch the really awfully animated Marvel stuff back in the late 60s, where they took the comics and did some odd motion. Spider-Man. Anyway, go ahead.
I think his name's Ted Knight. He also did like the Super Friends and all that.
Oh, the guy that was not Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, in the Hall of Justice.
I do tend to do the radio voice modulator.
So, everyone, next week we are going to talk more about Titans, comics, and DC Universe Year 1. We are also rapidly approaching New York Comic Con. We have a month to go, and we have lined up a special interview. No more information announced at this time. Also, sorry about Apple Podcasts not being there. However, you can listen to us on Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Podbean. That's right, you can listen to us on Podbean. Also, I am going to be doing a special talk about something to be determined on our YouTube for the 1-year anniversary of DC Universe. Maybe you guys can let me know what you guys want. Maybe even live. Maybe we can even do it live. Yeah. I don't know. That'd be fun. So make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll also see you guys next week. And I would say bye, but I gotta type some stuff in real quick before I can say bye. So why don't we say bye very slowly?
Bye.
What was that old the Mickey Mouse Club had some crazy goodbye song? Anyone remember it?
Oh my gosh.
It's time to say goodbye
and all your friends. MIC because we love you.
I'm gonna end it on that note, you guys. Bye.